Angelo Viscoso has time in the restaurant business. Frankie and Fanucci's has built a brand and is notable through the Westchester area, but there's a lot more to this story. Starting with the waterfront lipstick job at 25, being dropped into the ownership fire can teach you a lot about dealing with pressures. This is On the Record with Angelo Viscoso, owner of Frankie and Fanucci's.
I had a restaurant in Brooklyn looking to expand, and as a kid I always used to go to Italy, and the pizzerias there are a lot different than they are here. They're serving, really fresh ingredients, as most stuff is over there, as everything is local. And it was a lot of small plates, and like, man, this is like the way a pizzeria should be. So we're looking for a concept to kind of grow. We figured, hey, that's a cool concept, bring some fresh ingredients, small menu, small plates, kind of, and that's how it started, and we, obviously with the wood-fired brick oven was kind of just coming in too at that point. I think we were one of our first guys in this area in Hartsdale. I think Frank Pepe's just opened up like right before us, but, for the most part, we were kind of like one of the first ones out there in Lower Westchester. And that's how the concept came up, basically just going back to Italy and what they used to do over there.
You were fortunate too, though, in the time that your business came along and it was set up, was Instagram was just taking off. It was like pictures were becoming the thing, and the fact that nobody else was really doing these fired pizzas it was showcased almost, where people were seeing this and they said, wait, that looks way better. And previous to that, we were looking at shit like Domino's and like these pizzas that just they were the pizzas that you grew up with, but they didn't have that char to them. They didn't have that little sex appeal. You wanted to see that little burn mark that kind of existed. And through those photos, you kind of could tell, hey, we're going into a different era of quality food and different pizzas, or a different style pizza that's kind of coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, what they say, you eat with your eyes first, right? So obviously you look at those nice charred pies and it just makes you want to go try it and have it, and especially at that time where it wasn't so common. Now I feel like it's almost everywhere. Who do we really CPK was there at the time, but they weren't really getting that char. They were cooking at a gas-fired oven. They weren't getting that visual that we would get out of our pies.
So now, once you're one of the first guys in Lower Westchester with this wood-fired pizza oven, did you start trying to build a menu around having that oven? Is there other items that you showcase coming out of that hot oven?
What's funny is that Hartsdale location was a restaurant. We went in there, we took the kitchen out of it, and we put in an 8,000-pound wood-fired oven. And we opened up with salads, pizza. I mean, we even had a soup on the menu that we made in a brick oven. Okay. Probably one of the first ones that has happened, but everything was great. Limited menu, it worked out great. And then we found, like anything else, right? Everybody wants to grow, right? You want to push, and you want to see your increasing sales. So everybody kind of goes to, all right, we're going to expand the menu. So what do? We put a kitchen back in. So yeah, I mean, it just, it was just a tough. It was kind of funny how we had to take out the kitchen and put it back in just to get to where we started from.
Those lessons you learn along the way.
That space has its own challenges too, though, because it's a rectangular square almost, and the kitchen that you put in, it's a tight little quarter space that everyone's putting out food, and you should see how packed this place would be, and the little kitchen that was just like trucking out all these orders nonstop. It was crazy to see it happen, and it was crazy to see how they were able to keep up with the volume of the location itself. I mean, it was bustling. How many tables were in Hartsdale?
There were like 22 tables. We sat about 70 people.
Yeah.
And significant size.
So basically you're taking that, and then now you designed a restaurant not to have a kitchen, right? It's just a brick oven. Yeah. And now you got to put in a whole line, right? You got to put in a 6-burner stove, a fryer, a pasta cooker, because we did a lot of pasta, and you don't want to lose any seats because seats are revenue, right? So that's why it was so crammed.
Well, the dish pit was like 3x3, it was the tightest quarter you ever seen.
Yeah, and the fortunate thing about that location, it had a full basement, so we did a lot of our prep down there, our walk-in box, even our 3-compartment sink was downstairs where, the dishes, the dishwasher machine for dishes and glasses were upstairs just because we wanted to reduce the amount of, going up and down as possible.
Yeah.
Because that equals the dollars, right? It's labor,
Yeah.
more labor.
How many items were you think on that menu about?
Originally,
Well, when the kitchen got put back in.
we probably had about a dozen pastas. We started with just pastas, then you had probably a dozen appetizers, half a dozen salads, and then, you list about a dozen specialty pizzas.
When it comes time to deciding on, you and your partner decided on the name together to some extent, maybe back and forth, a couple names in the hat before deciding on something. Where's Frankie and Fanucci's come from?
It was when we went to design the place, we had a designer help us out with it. Actually they designed it. Yeah, we helped them out, basically. It turned out to be like a turn of the century kind of decor. So we try to fit in, okay, what does a turn of a century kind of name work? And like Fanucci's, it's kind of a name that you haven't heard in a while. So, and then kind of Frankie just went with it. And it just sounded better than our names.
Yeah, it's certainly clean cut, and the graphic and the logo and the way it's built out, everything does pull back together. Like a lot of times you see people put something together and it turns out to kind of just look like mishmash where they didn't have the full idea and then build around it. As from a graphic design standpoint, when you look at the lettering, like the font just used for it kind of ties everything back in together too.
It's clean, but it's still got a little bit of old school with very clean modern aesthetic to it.
Yeah, like there's the lightest touch of sophistication to it. That's like, no, it's not just pizza. You're gonna eat this pizza with a pinky out a little
bit of class. Yeah,
totally.
In fact, when we opened this location, you guys were across the street. We looked at that sign when we were trying to figure out our sign. We were like, well, you had a different one. You had the one painted on the wall.
Yeah, we had someone kind of
painted on
the
brick, right? And we were like, we want to do that same exact sign, but our landlord wouldn't let us paint on the brick. So it died.
Or you could have made the mistake that we did and said that we would restore it back to its original when we leave. So that's just hanging over my head.
The quote unquote mistake. So having the history in the restaurant business though, period, and having a restaurant prior to Frankie and Fanucci's, what do you learn from going through that? And considering that the previous restaurant was kind of a waterfront spot, it's a whole type of different business. Yeah. So it's interesting to pivot, though, off the waterfront into a landlocked area, too, where obviously your food items are going to be a little bit different. The feel and the vibe's going to be a little bit different, too.
Yeah, I think, my first restaurant, the waterfront one that you're referencing, that kind of just, it wasn't a concept that we kind of came up with. It was almost, it developed over time, right? It was a location that came, across, my desk, so to speak, because I wasn't really in the business. I grew up in the business, then I was an engineer for a few years, and then I got dragged back in. So that location came up and wow, great waterfront location. We kind of hacked it together, lipstick job. I was 25 years old. Really never have been in a restaurant per se business. I was more in the pizza business. There was no liquor. Had to learn all that on the way. So it was kind of something that just evolved, where Frankie and Fanucci was more of a concept that said, hey, here's a concept that we kind of developed, and then where do we put it? Now, you're talking about 2008. 2008 was right before the crash, right? We could not find a location. Literally, we were knocking on people's doors saying, hey, you want to leave? There was just nothing available. And we went, pretty far. We went all the way up to Fairfield, Connecticut. So basically, we knew we wanted to be in a suburban kind of market. It was kind of like the concept of Frankie and Fanucci's. So we lit Lower Westchester all the way up to Fairfield, Connecticut. And we've hit a lot of places, and it probably took us about a year. That's when that location opened up. And we wound up having to buy it to really just gut it out, just because we needed a lease. There were no leases.
Do you think it took that long also because 2008 internet wasn't still kind of set up as efficiently as it is now to just go find somebody that's looking to get rid of their location or lose their lease?
Yeah, I think obviously the line of communication today is so much easier, quicker. Back in the day, you would you rely on salesmen to kind of give you the inside scoop. Because most places will get souped up before it even
yeah.
hits the market, kind of thing.
Or you'd have to have one real estate guy and just trust that he's going to show you all the right places.
Exactly.
Sure. And you just referred to, doing the lipstick job to put this thing together before you came into Frankie and Fanucci's, which then, of course, was a concept. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with, doing a lipstick job on the spot, slap some paint on it, bring it up to speed a little. Like, I think there's still ways that you could build a concept from that. I'm just wondering maybe then at that point, if it was still so early in the game or early in your experience at that point of restaurants where you said, all right, no, we need to lean towards doing concepts, like conceptual things, because then we can build it, scale it out, sell it eventually down the road.
That was the goal, right? We wanted a multi-unit. It was intention from day one to be a multi-unit concept. So every decision we made was how do we operate this on multiple units? And it came down to the menu, just having recipes documented. Obviously, like you mentioned, that the kitchen was really small.
That probably ended up being a good thing for you because you learned how to economize your space very well.
Yeah, so we relied on systems more than, let's say, my first location, where I relied more on people, right? And it was the chef in the kitchen or the prep guy. And when you have change in staff, you kind of go through some bumps. Where
you do.
It was less. Yeah, you always go through bumps, but then you really go through bumps when you don't have a recipe.
When your whole system's relying
when you don't
on
have a
one guy
recipe
showing
for
up.
that tiramisu that the guy just quit on you.
Right. Wait, how did he make that?
People love. So it was a little different there. But, going back to lipstick job, I mean, it worked for me in Brooklyn because I strapped it together. I didn't have much, 25 years old. It started out, it grew over the years, but it was just a pretty decent sized place, and I didn't have much to put into it as far as dollars.
When you say it grew over the years, so it didn't have 250 seats right in the beginning.
No, it was a smaller. They had like an outdoor deck.
Okay.
That listen, we're in New York. It doesn't really last. You don't get many seasons out of it. So we enclosed that, and we made it almost like a Four Seasons room, but still had a feel of an outdoor space with a tent, the natural light. People would come in dead of winter with snow outside and say, I want to sit outside. So that worked.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So the lipstick job, we had a place up in Bedford Hills. Walked into a beautiful place. I'm like, wow, this place is beautiful. We don't have to do anything here. And we went in there, we changed the name, changed the menu, obviously, and it was a total failure. So I think just because the people were so used to seeing it, that there was nothing new and exciting for them. So there has to be a certain level of lipstick to be put on, because you can't just go in there, change the name, and expect to, win everybody over.
You refer to Bedford Hills, like from my perspective, like Bedford Hills is a smaller area. It's not as busy. I feel like there's got to be less population than Mamaroneck.
Yeah, it was probably
right?
Mount Kisco border. Like we were literally on the border, so our address was Bedford Hills, but we were basically considered Mount Kisco.
We talked to Thomas Kelly at Mexico a couple episodes back too, and he certainly said that the concept could be right, but the place could be wrong. And it doesn't really make the concept a failed concept by any means. It was just maybe in the wrong placement.
Yeah.
And we talked to him about how he selects the areas that he goes through. And I think I recalled him saying something about just looking at the data points. It's like we're in a different world now, too, where data commands everything. And, if you just go on USPS.com, you can log in on the back end and just see how much money everyone makes in a specific zip code. And then if you want to target them, you can just send them postcards. It's not that expensive.
Yeah, that's where we're at now, where it's so much easier. Like I told you guys, we did that demographic report in New Rochelle, and he just pulled up 10 years of history, and he's like, these are everybody that walked through your doors in the last 10 years, and where they came from, and where their house was, and where their thing.
Yeah, we've been doing that marketing for probably from day one.
I think I actually designed a postcard at some point that went out from you guys.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what you're saying too is that's half of it, right? So identifying where you want to be, but just like you said, with covering up the whole place, because we looked at, remember I was telling you, we looked at White Plains where Brother Jimmy's used to be, right? And we love the space on the corner and everything, but we're another barbecue concept.
There's only so much you could do to change public perception of the space that already exists.
So we were like, we can't go in here right now. And they're like, well, you guys are better than Brother Jimmy's. I said, yeah, but it's
still
Brother
fighting
Jimmy's.
an uphill
like
battle.
we have to
Yeah.
wash this place of Brother Jimmy's. We're just gonna walk in and be like, it's still Brother Jimmy's. So that is what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Just. And I'm no stranger to the battle of perception of places that have stained their reputation over the years. And you're correct that you would definitely have a fight on your hands, but I think it could be one that could win. I mean, Smokehouse is a strong enough brand, too, where you could tell that there's some quality to it. It's clean enough.
Least resistance.
Sure.
Path of
I
least
know.
resistance.
I like doing it to
Go
myself.
for the low-hanging fruit.
Angelo, you said
Quick
though.
wins.
You said too though that your system's forward, which is awesome because that's how you scale. And at some point too, though, we obviously still need the people to perform and be there and be trained correctly, and that still ties back to the systems, the training manual or something of that nature. And to be systems forward, a lot of times I would think that you are kind of data focused on the things that you're putting together, or you're already looking down the road at the problems that could be had if you don't set up to scale correctly. And in being able to put together a handful of different restaurants like this, like your systems have to be already together.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I said, the systems are there, but also the people that run the place, the managers, have to believe in those systems. Because we've seen it where we would come in, they'd yes you, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that, and then next thing you know, the binder's like as greasy it can be in the bottom corner, not being used. So the systems have to be there, but you also have to police it, and you have to make sure they're using them.
Sure. Also, it's one thing, too, to be behind the scene putting the system together, and then when it's actually being used, you still need to get the feedback from those using it to say, where are the efficiencies that I missed? Because there's always something you weren't paying attention to or focused on that when it's in actual real-time usage, they're like, this isn't even feasible. Like, we can't
absolutely.
actually maintain doing this because this doesn't make sense or this doesn't make sense. And I'm sure you've seen that in changing designs over and over again. Like, the front takeout area, which it doesn't look like it's there right now, huh?
No, it's there.
It is?
It's a big
Okay.
stand right there. What do you
Wasn't
mean?
it? It was in the back at some point before you said, let's move this thing to the front.
No.
Yeah. Well,
No, it wasn't
I think I
always
was
in the front.
always in the. I think I was in the back before you built it.
No, he's okay. But no, but
That's
right
what
now
I'm
it's
referring
set up.
to. But at some point you realized that there was an efficiency that could have
We were
been
doing
better.
takeout from the bar back there.
Yeah.
But because we thought we wanted people to walk through the restaurant.
It was a
like,
good idea.
thing.
It made sense.
But then we were like, this is too many people walking through the restaurant.
it's not the most efficient.
Yeah, we haven't learned that one yet. Our pickup station's still all the way in the back of the restaurant.
It's a good idea.
Probably in
'cause
10 years from now, I'll figure that one out.
Well, it's funny. We were just cruising around Long Island and
Well, we had
checking
to
out.
lose a table to do that. So I had to pull a table. So it was 6 seats we had to pull out. That was
That's revenue.
yeah, exactly. So
But look at what it's done, though. Now you have a full-fledged hostess stand that people are able to see when they walk right into the building.
ask me on Friday night if I would rather have those.
Of course you would rather. Build another restaurant, all right? You'll fix the problem. But cruising through Long Island, sure enough, we went and go set up a spot. And, of course, right in the front, there was a little pickup area, similar counter that he's just put up in the front. And I said, look at that. There you go. Pickup counter. People were coming in, grabbing it. They were just leaving very quickly and efficiently. Like, that makes you happy, I think, when you're picking something up. Like, streamlining something for the user to make as easily accessible is, I think, what creates the person coming back again and again.
Actually, now that you say that, I think that was the catalyst because we switched to the online ordering where they paid everything, so it was straight pickups. They didn't have to go to the bar and pay. So
the
that's
other
why we
thing-
moved it up there.
The other thing to consider, too, is, the people that are dining here, having people just walk to a restaurant standing there.
Yeah.
Like, Friday night, we'll have a bunch of people online waiting to pick up just because there's a certain time to process them. So it's right in the middle of your dining room.
Yeah.
So we kind of get away with it there just because it's a kind of a kind of a casual atmosphere. But yeah, it's always can be better.
Where are you at with the third-party ordering apps like Grubhub or
So
Uber Eats?
yeah, I hate Grubhub.
Same.
It's just, listen, in the city, it's dependent on Grubhub. We've tried every which way to kind of get away from them, and then just the sales go down when we're not on that platform. Everything from incentivizing them to order direct. We use Chow Now to kind of help because we use Aloha, and they charge an arm and a leg for online ordering, but so we use Chow Now and try to get direct orders that way, and it just couldn't get it going.
Yeah.
Here we're lucky enough in Frankie and Fanucci's to have a good base of customers that order online. But yeah, I think if you're able, like especially today with Toast and all these other POS systems, they have like white label apps. We used to use a system called Revention, another concept that was great. You know, you go in there, you make a menu change, it had a white label app, you kind of design it yourself. You didn't need a whole graphics design team to do it. But at the end of the day, you need the business coming in.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you can't afford to give up that percentage. Like we looked at a concept in Manhattan. There was a chicken place, and they were doing 50% of their business on Grubhub, and they were literally going bankrupt. They were losing money just because, and they were paying for it too. So it wasn't like they were 16, 17%. They were at like the 30% mark plus. And obviously the numbers don't work, right? You're going to give up 30+% or 50% of your business. That's 15% of the bottom line. That's usually your bottom line.
It's crazy, and that circles back to different concepts and ways that execution happens in different spaces that it just can't work everywhere. Like, obviously it brings a ton of people in through the city using these apps because you've got millions just touching their phone.
Yeah, it's
right?
convenient for them, right?
Out here, I mean, it seems like Justin's done decently here trying to train everybody to just order direct and order through the website. And fortunately, he started doing that before the pandemic occurred, so people were already being trained. So it kind of just helped fortify when the pandemic did help, where, you're able to shut these things down. But there's definitely so many different restaurant concepts and areas where you need to depend on still the third party, as much as we hate giving up that money to it.
Yeah, so we did. I mean, thankfully, like I said, we had a good delivery business, and that was like the saving grace through the pandemic. Because if you were somewhat set up, you took off. If you were really set up, you really killed it. But we actually went the other way. We actually got rid of Grubhub during the pandemic.
Nice.
We just cut them out altogether because it was all takeout business, and not that not that I want to refuse business, but at the same time, I just didn't have the staff to basically fulfill the orders. So we had so much demand on our own platform that we didn't need to use them and give up that commission fee.
Have they robbed your website yet?
The big one that robs it is Slice. Slice.
Wait, no, I'm talking about Grubhub literally commandeered our website. Like they registered a domain name.
That's what Slice does.
Yeah.
That says like FrankieFanucci's.com.
Yeah, that's what they'll.
Slice is like the Grubhub for pizza places.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
They just do it all the time.
So they made a FrankieFanucci's.com, and it's really Slice.
And it goes.
They're
Slice.
pretty brazen about it too, because they say we only go after pizza places because they don't have time to make up an online presence for themselves. So we'll do it, and all your favorite pizza places are on their app. They're like really forward about gathering all the pizza place data and like showing it to you in one place.
The fact that we're young enough to know how the internet works and knowledgeable enough too, and we're starting to see these trends happen and these things change. I mean, you could easily be in the hole $1,200 a year on website domain names because you've got to make sure that you've got every single backing of your website period before somebody else takes it. And
sure,
then
you heard the article about the guy in Argentina who stole Google Argentina's domain.
Oh, and
like
then
20
have
minutes.
them do donation to get it back, a big donation somewhere. Yeah, I mean, like, stealing websites is not new by any means. I've definitely armed myself with a handful of website domains. I've got 32 of them. Some of them are close to brands. Some of them are not brands. And it's not new. This isn't weird. I once actually purchased a website from somebody and then sent them a pitch on how I could run their website business. And I said, listen, don't worry. I just took it off the market. I'm going to give it to you back regardless. There's no issue. And I put a proper pitch together, and I said, this is what I think that we can make on this website off of advertising. You don't have something right now. I'm willing to do all the work for a small percentage.
You're like an ethical hacker.
Yeah.
I hacked you.
Gotta make
Yeah,
sense.
he's like, I took your shit, but I'm gonna give it back.
Just to show you.
So aside from the delivery apps and whatnot, you moved on to a truck at one point then, the pizza truck.
Yeah, so the brick and mortar, the Frankie and Fanucci's concept, we were looking to see how could we expand. We kind of, like everybody else, hit our bumps in the road, and the truck really didn't start as a truck. It started as we wanted to find a location that was highly visible and obviously not so much rent. right? So we were thinking, hey man, these shopping centers have huge parking lots, and most of them are not even used, right? So obviously it's not new, right? They have pad sites, right? Starbucks, whatever, quick serve is usually up there. So like, oh man, we can figure out how to we originally thought it was as a trailer. But we're going to do these trailers that just drop them down on a foundation on a parking lot in a shopping center on a high visible road. And it'll be great. It was a pizza concept, obviously, because that's what we do. And it was just hard to find a location. It was hard to get the landlords to commit to doing that. And it was kind of costly. You start bringing in utilities and whatnot. So I'm like, oh man, what happens if it had wheels? And we just, just disappear at night. We just park there during the day. And then at night, kind of go home and go to a commissary.
I like the reference of just disappearing at night.
Yeah.
Then we just disappear.
That's it. So it was great, except we couldn't get over the mental barrier of people thinking of us as a same location every day. It wasn't like Manhattan where you go to 57th Street and 5th Avenue and you know that guy is there every day. It doesn't work that way in the suburb. And we were up in Stanford, and it was hard, to educate the customer base. It was expensive, right? To educate them, to let them think that we're your neighborhood pizza spot, where we were actually delivering. We had delivery guys come to the truck and deliver out.
Yeah.
So that was the whole concept. So even though it had wheels, we didn't operate it as if it had wheels.
Do you think you were too early at that point with that?
100%.
I mean, now I feel like everyone's trained, right?
100%.
Like they know what to do and they know the drill.
Especially up in Stanford, Connecticut, where, if we would have been in the 5 boroughs, probably would have had a better shot at it. But being that we're up in Stanford, there wasn't many food trucks at the time. Most of them were known for like these, late night bar eats. And yeah, it was just tough. And I know that you, in your last podcast with Mexico, they, there's a lot of challenges with the food trucks and coming from, like they went from food truck to brick and mortar. We're going from brick and mortar to food truck.
Reverse this?
Like, who wants to deal with a generator or a flat tire or all this stuff? Like, and then we're leaving, right? So if your staff is like 5 minutes late, you can't leave. You got to wait for them because they're coming there. It's your pickup location.
There are definitely interesting problems that occur. I was with my buddy Kev the other day who has a food truck, and he walked into the back of the kitchen looking super greasy and dirty, and I was like, you working with us tonight? He goes, no, man. Damn truck. I got to fix a piece that just burst on me. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, this is just a piece of it, knowing that he has to go out tomorrow and show up at a different brewery or whatever the location is.
It's like we learn how to fix fridges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When you have a truck, now you're a mechanic too.
Yeah, it's tough. But it's for the birds. I couldn't deal with it. It was just too many moving parts.
We always thought it would be a good idea to have a truck to test out
New locations.
So if you're like thinking about, hey, we might be able to do there, you could send your truck before you
100%. That was obviously, yeah. Listen, I wish I had a truck now during a pandemic. I wish I can get it back.
So look at this too, though. You're coming from the Frankie and Fanucci's in the Hartsdale area. You look to go into the city, as we say, maybe there's more bodies. Let's bring it down here where it's completely chaotic. There's going to be so much more volume, and let's get into the city landscape. I mean, you talk to guys that have establishments out here in Westchester and outside the city, and they're like, I want nothing to do with the city. It's a whole different beast. I don't know how to read it, gauge it. I don't know. The prices are crazy on rent. At what point were you just confident to, and also backscale, starting this at 25, like coming into this business and learning so much just going forward, as nuts as it is. It seems like it's a whole nother tier to then enter into the city landscape where it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I've seen it where you talk to someone and you tell them you're in a restaurant business, and then they're like, you tell them you have a location in the city. It's like, oh, you have a location in the city. Like, that. Meanwhile, I'm thinking it's like the same shit. It's like, I do the same thing I do in Westchester, I do in the city. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's definitely harder, I think, in certain, you're either going to pay big rent to be in that A location, and it takes out a lot of the marketing, like anywhere else, or B, you're going to take a side street and rely on pulling people. And it's really what you're good at. Like, some people aren't good at marketing and they're good operators, and people say, hey, listen, if you put a bunch of people at my door, I'll win them back. They'll come back here and I'll build a business. You know, some people like, I'm not going to pay the rent. I know how to bring people here. People are going to come and have my, you know, pizza.
Thomas Kelly did say that too. He said, I don't do the side A, I do the side B street.
Right.
Like, you know, it's still close. It's still close enough to get some traction on it and do what we could do marketing-wise, but I'm not paying the rent on side A. Doesn't make sense.
You know, I think you really got to take a look at it and see the amount of money that you put into the advertising. I think it basically evens out to the rent.
We've had that side A/B conversation a lot. That's the first time I, you know, thought about it that way.
It's
of
actually
saying,
rationalized that
you
way.
know,
Yeah.
the marketing, the two are related, right? So I never really thought of it that way. When we're thinking, how strong are you to pull it? But it is a marketing play.
Yeah.
But I guess if you make a strong enough brand, you can even go to side C.
Well,
And
it's
it's
Outback,
still-
right? Outback is
Right.
like in a deep corner of the
Right.
of the whatever the shopping center.
It's the one I worked at Outback when I started, and the one that I worked at was on the basement floor in White Plains
Yeah.
on the in like the service road in between the hotel.
And they cranked.
And it was the busiest place. It was like,
How important is then building a brunch? A brunch that's popularized. People want to come to it. They want to have mimosas all morning and, you know, whatever else they're drinking to
that
pair
was-
the dog.
That was like, that hit it out of the park for us. I mean, when we rebranded that. So
How did the idea just come along?
it was actually a manager that was there at the time. She actually wasn't in the business, and we just hired her. She was an assistant manager, but she was like marketing and really sharp girl. And we were coming up with this concept of Soto 13 in a city, and you know, it came all together with the design and just being able to look at your demographic and say, hey, you know, we're targeting, you know, 30 to 40-year-olds, mostly female in that area. So like brunch is a hit. So we put together this boozy brunch. And the biggest thing with brunch, and I think we didn't even know it at the time, is that location has a skylight in it. You need natural daylight.
You do.
You just, without the natural daylight, it's hard to get the brunch going. So that location was just kind of given. We didn't even know it. We just kind of fell on it by accident. And it just took off. And that was like probably a good portion of the reason why we were successful in that location. And then from the brunch, it went to happy hour. We had a, you know, really busy happy hour where you can't even walk in a place. And it just, you know, we just maintained it year after year.
My girlfriend just yelled at me because I put a 1,000-watt light bulb in my office area, and she was like, "It's like the fucking sun in here." And I was like, "Yeah, but look how efficient I am. Like, I feel like it's the morning all the
That's
time.
one way to do it.
Like, let's go." But so with the boozy brunch and that taking off, and you just said what I was going to ask you too. It trickled into the happy hours, and you saw the business kind of lift up a little bit from that. I mean, that's marketing in itself. Every single person that comes out and they're taking videos, like you said, that skylight provides a beautiful little area
Oh, yeah,
of
it's
natural
great.
light
It's
coming
great
in.
for social media.
Totally. So, you know, at this point too, then people are starting to use their phones. The cameras are a little bit better. It's an easy way for people to find out about businesses that they didn't know existed before. And then next thing you know, you click on to the name of the place and you say, wow, I got to try this for boozy brunch. Like, this looks like they're having the time of their life. That like super works in your favor. And it's crazy too, because when we put these businesses together and these concepts and ideas and events, everything has to line up perfectly. Like, there's no room for error in any of this. Like, the phones on the camera have to be just great enough. The social media apps that people are using have to adhere to people posting videos and content like this. And like, I mean, we're up to 10,000 people on the Smokehouse Instagram now, according to the counter. Plus.
need another 4 this morning.
See, like, but these are the things that are marketing for us in general. And we have a conversation too a lot about Instagram and Facebook kind of being a gatekeeper to your ability to advertise because they want you to pay money. With that being said, I'm definitely a champion promoter of email lists. Is this something that Frankie Fanucci has been doing for some time?
Yeah, I mean, we've always kind of had a good email list. I mean, actually, when we first opened up Hartsdale, before we even opened, we had a big, you know, banner on a storefront saying, "Hey, sign up for our email list and get a free pie when we open."
Awesome.
There you go.
And that was a big, you know, we must have had a couple thousand registrations.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, how am I going to fulfill a couple thousand pies? So we sent them out in waves.
Yeah.
people calling up, it's like, hey, where's my free pizza? Oh, you're on a list. You're going to get it in like a week. So it didn't
That's
you
pretty
know,
We're
awesome.
cooking a
That's
lot of
excellent
pies.
marketing. Yeah.
yeah.
And,
You could have turned that into like a secondary thing too. Like so many people got pizza. We're doing 1,000 pies.
Well, that's what we did. That's what we told them. We're like,
yeah.
we had to like spread it out over 6 weeks.
So to me, the best part about email marketing is that it's essentially free minus whatever you're paying whoever the facilitator is of sending those things out.
Yeah, like a MailChimp or whatever it is, yeah.
I mean, and if your list is big enough too, one proper email blast that goes out, people are calling you. They're coming in, they're ordering things, I would suspect. Similar to any product that you get an email from, minus things like Target, which are just turn and burn. They know people are getting rid of the subscription to the email every time that they get it, but then people are ordering and they get reapplied onto the subscription of the email. I just started using one called Klaviyo, and Klaviyo seems like the automation is excellent to the point where everything is an automated funnel. So Klaviyo breaks up everybody's segments on their own without you having to actually do any of the breaking up yourself. So if somebody orders something from me, they go into a separate list funnel. Now they ordered. So now I can send them out a separate email as somebody that's already become a customer of ours, and we want to turn them into a loyal follower of the brand. If they have not ordered, they could get a different email that's trying to lead them in, possibly with a discount, to start training them to use our product or, facilitate the transaction itself. So it seems, even going through Spotify and listening to some of these podcasts out there of people that are email marketing experts, they've turned brands into $1 million brands just based upon the funnels and the way that they fulfill their emails going out to people, and they wind up getting them on board. And I'm wondering then, say you've got 10,000 people on your email list, or maybe 5,000 people on the email list, how many of those people are actually opening up the mail, and how many of those people are you paying for that have never come in, that maybe don't have any interest, they just haven't hit the unsubscribe button? And to cut these costs, you got to eliminate these people. That way your list percentage is a higher percentage of openers, because Constant Contact and Google and all these people, they see that. They see that people aren't opening the mail, and that maybe you just have a big list and it's irrelevant. So you get bounced in a lot of senses.
You're saying just keep a more accurate list?
Yeah, you have to
Separate
actually
lists.
get people off your list is the goal. I'd rather have a list of 200 people that all order pizza from me than have a 5,000 person list with only 300 people ordering pies.
Yeah, so we did like a 30, 60, 90 kind of thing. So customer hasn't been to us in 30 days, they'd get an email saying, hey, haven't seen you this month. Here's a free bag of Zeppelis or whatever. Then he goes,
That's the 30-day giveaway.
that's the 30 one. Then you go to 60 days, and then you up your offer a little bit, and then the 90 day if they haven't
Come in and collect $1,000.
So, and then after the 90 days, we kind of maybe do another run, like 180 day, but then that's it. They're off the list.
As far as marketing goes, what is your personal favorite as far as seeing a return on investment?
Listen, when we won the Best of Westchester, we used to do like a $1 pizza kind of day. So
Pie or
pie.
slice?
Pie. So
Well,
thanks.
I wasn't on that list.
Yeah,
You
we
wanna-
were not
listen,
on that
if
list.
if you were on an email list, you would have got it. But so as a thank you to all our customers that voted for us, we would do a 1-day event, $1 pies, personal pizza, and that was, you would think man, we're going to lose our shirts. But besides doing pizza at $1, it was the highest grossing day sales that we would do.
I was going to say, how many people came in and ordered other things
Yeah,
on top of that?
exactly.
Just because
Especially
they were there.
if you're going across the street, you guys got that beer system there. It's fucking beautiful. You get a $1 pie, you're just gonna
And
sit
you
there
get-
and pound beers.
Exactly.
Before we jump into that tap
was
system,
waiting.
because we got to talk heavily
Yeah.
about that too.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with tattoo shops? Anybody?
Like their existence?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You seen them?
Yeah.
What's a tattoo
You ever see
shop?
the lines outside on Friday the 13th?
Oh,
They do
I've been part of those
$13. They do
lines.
$13 tattoos.
Yeah.
Small little tattoos. You select from a book. You don't get to do anything crazy and custom.
Yeah.
But the lines are around the block nonstop. That you just kind of said the best marketing, not gimmick of all time, but the best marketing way is to be like, hey, It's fucking Frankie and Fanucci's $3 pies on every,
Friday the
Wednesday the
13th.
10th or,
You just
whatever
gave
it
up,
is.
You gave up extra. We had dollar pies, and you're giving extra
$3, $2.
Well,
Listen,
I
you
would
gotta
still
think-
be happy to pay $3. Like,
And you
just
know
cover
what?
the
It
dough.
didn't work as well if you gave it away for free.
I believe it. What's wrong with the pie? Why are they giving it away for free?
Exactly.
Who needs help? This is Bob's Burgers over here.
So that's what happened when we originally opened up and we were handing out free pies. Had a customer call me and said, hey, listen, if you guys are willing to give me a free pie, it's either really, really good or really, really bad that you have to give it away. It's like, I'm going to give it a shot. And she wound up being a regular customer. But
That's comical. Go ahead.
Oh, talk about the tap system.
Take it. I know you wanted to get it out.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's-
You guys have this magical tap system over there. It's the first self-serve tap system in Lower Westchester, correct?
it was, as far as like in a full service capacity,
Yeah.
I think there was like one other place around here that had a small version of it.
I remember when you guys were opening up with that tap system, we were in the kitchen here just like anxiously awaiting the day we can walk across the street and pour our own beers.
Yeah. Worked out great. I mean, listen, we were looking to put a bar into the restaurant. And we figured, what are we going to do different with a bar? It's going to be like any other bar on the block. So came up with this tap, concept, and we looked at the technology of it and seemed like it makes sense. I'm not a beer guy. I was never a beer guy. And I would not ever order a beer. But now, being able to taste different beers, I kind of know, like, hey, man, these beers are good. Like,
You're able to taste your way through with no pressure.
Exactly. You just basically an ounce here, 2 ounces there, and you kind of really can taste things that you normally would never taste before. So it worked out great for us. I mean, we needed a boost in the arm, and that gave it to us. We probably, figured about beer sales, our overall sales were up over 30%. Just in overall.
That was a pretty big install. It wasn't just putting the
Big money.
putting the fridges in there, because you guys ripped up the whole front.
Yeah.
And redid the whole area,
we
right?
were doing a renovation anyway.
Okay, all right.
Right. So that wasn't because of that. We were doing a bar area. We kind of, the original design of the place didn't work out for us with the front, and everybody wanted to sit in the back of the restaurant. So the restaurant always looked empty, which is really important when you're designing a place. Is that you want to have people want to sit in the front of the restaurant, not in the back. So that's what we did. That we rearranged our entrance and kind of put the tap room up front. And but the beer system itself, I mean, it consists of a kegerator, right? So it's like any other beer system, and then you put the technology on top of it, right? So beer systems in general are expensive. By the time you go through the glycol system or whatever,
Yeah.
Even a direct draw system, they get kind of costly. So that we had these custom built kegerators to basically take whatever it was, 32 taps, and there were remote compressors and condensers on a roof, and then we had a glycol system because we wanted the perfect temperature. So on top of it being in a kegerator already, we put a glycol system into it to chill the
That
heads.
doubled down. I didn't realize you did that.
Oh yeah, we doubled down. I mean, we wanted our beer to be perfect. Listen, if you're going to be known as all these beer place, you got to pour a perfect beer.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot.
I mean, although a lot of the people pouring may not know how to be pouring the perfect beer. So the process works is this, right? You walk in, you sit down at the table, you tell the server, hey, we're going to do some beers. They check your ID. They come give you a little card. You run the little card up against this little scanner thing, and then it logs how many ounces you've poured out. And then when you get to the front counter, they're like, hey, you owe us $70. That was my experience, essentially. And, I wasn't mad by any means. I had a handful of beers. I was very happy.
Yeah,
it was like going to the bar.
It does tell you along the way, though,
Yeah.
what you're pouring.
Totally. But the fact is, it was very cool to be able to just go sit up in the
do it all
front,
yourself, yeah.
go get my beer myself,
You don't have to wait for a bartender. There's none of that.
But being a bartender, you completely forget that you could stop pouring the beer. So I was drinking the full beers instead of tasting all the beers. I was just autopilot to fill the beer all the way to the top. I kept forgetting to stop.
So we thought it was a great idea to put bigger glasses in, right?
There you go.
So we figured to put bigger glasses in, people pour bigger beer, bigger wine. Let me tell you, man, when someone pours a $20 glass of wine, they're pissed. So we changed that real quick. We went back to small glasses for wine.
Frankie at Fanucci's, home of the beer stein. So I mean, this helps out. Also, again, like we
the
said,
Weinstein.
The Weinstein. You were one of the first people out here with that installed. So yes, it is a little bit different. It's cool to have something like that. And that room that you have in the front, what makes that even better was the audio. The speakers that are in that room are flawless. The sound is perfect. You sit in that little room, and whatever music's playing, you hear that in quality. It's not like the bass is too high, the bass is too low. It's perfect.
That
whole
happened by
room.
accident, by the way.
It was a perfect accident because I was sitting there. And
Just went to
being-
Best Buy, found a best
worked.
system, put a price, and we put it in.
Being
And
a
that was
sound
it.
guy, constantly
Did it
walk into
overnight.
a restaurant, and
He
you
would
go,
he would
"Why is
notice
this like
that too.
Yeah.
It's like one of
Yeah, but you don't realize, like, yeah, I'm noticing it because I focus on that, but somebody else sitting there, they don't notice it, but they feel it without
Yeah.
noticing that they feel
Subconsciously,
it.
of course.
Correct.
Listen, ambiance is like key to restaurants, right? You have to have that vibe. It's the worst thing when you walk into a place and it's just stagnant, right?
I was
And
told
it's-
by somebody that you guys will not change the volume level, even if they ask. Is that true?
I feel like I heard that as
you know,
well.
you know, it. We believe in that, and I don't think our managers ever adhere to it. And when a customer asks me, I lowered it anyway. It's so hard because
'Cause they
we're in the
know, yeah.
hospitality business,
Right.
right? I want to make you happy,
Yeah.
right? But unfortunately, making that one guest happy is probably making everybody else unhappy.
Right.
Yeah, and it's also
So we do
slippery
it to
slope.
yeah, exactly, and we do it to a, some reasonable limit.
I like
Yeah.
to play when they ask. If it's early and they're the only people in here, I'm like, whatever. They're the
Yeah.
only ones here. I'll do whatever you want. But as soon as it gets a little, busy, you're like, oh, I want a certain atmosphere.
It's like music level goes down, lights go up.
Pretty much.
Your average age goes up of your clientele.
My favorite play is when they ask. I say, yeah, no problem, and then don't do it.
Then you don't do it.
Oh, that's a given.
You go
gotta
over-
last
you go over
at
to the
least,
thing and you
at
just don't
least
touch
2 to
anything?
3 times before anything changes, including the thermostat.
How are you with the hiring process right now? Are you
It's-
hired up for the summer?
No, we're terrible.
Are
It's
you
absolutely
finding
terrible.
the same difficult
Nobody shows
situation?
This is an industry wide problem right now.
We really haven't talked about it enough, to be honest with you. Like, I know we glance over it every once in a while.
I promise you can walk into any good restaurant right now, and they're looking for at least 5 or 6 people.
Are interviews being conducted and just people don't
no
show
one
back
shows
up?
No one responds. It used to be where people would respond to the ad, get a lot of responses, right? A handful of people would show up. You basically hire someone, tell them to come in, and then they don't show up. Right? And then it just gradually gets worse, right? So now we're at the point where we're not even getting leads. People aren't even responding to the ads.
I saw a line cook ad posted on Instagram the other day for a restaurant in the city. They're willing to pay their cooks between $25 and $27 an hour. Nobody's applying. Wild.
That circles back to what I thought was a meme, but it actually probably wasn't. It was like McDonald's somewhere in the South
Yeah, I saw
offering
that.
like $10
No,
for
it's
somebody to
they're
come
giving
in.
you they're giving you $100 just to sit down for an interview, and then it's some crazy $250 bonus if you take the job.
Like,
That's what's going to come to.
this is a crazy situation. I know Justice said because everyone's just sitting on unemployment, like enjoying life, getting paid to do nothing.
It's two-part. It's the unemployment, and then a lot of people just left the industry.
Well, and that certainly is
Yeah.
is the case. How do you suspect to maybe get through this hardship of looking for people and being staffed up, and
Listen,
is life just hell for another couple months?
roll up the sleeves, fill in. Like when the pandemic hit, a lot of our counter staff were younger teenagers, answering phones, like typical, right? Obviously, they didn't come back to work because their parents wouldn't let them, which I wouldn't let my kid either. So what was I doing? I was answering phones because that's where the shortage was. And then I went from that to, the more technical stuff where making pizza, where there's just so much demand for kitchen staff that they're just looking to get another job for cash, which is another thing. People want to come in, but they want cash only. Those days are over.
Yeah, because they want to stay on unemployment. I'm
Exactly. So if you can't compete in that, and if you're, maybe if you're a little mom and pop with a couple employees and you have 1 or 2 people that are off the books, you might get away with it. But when you have a full staff and multiple restaurants, it's just not worth it.
Plus, there's not that much cash around anymore.
Yeah. Well,
Sure. That's another actual problem that exists. Correct. Sure. Okay. So with obviously the future, we're not looking to get back into expansion. We're still in contraction mode to some extent.
yeah, as of right now, I mean, my Brooklyn location is temporary closed right now, looking to move to a new spot. But that's, rather than that, really, I'm just trying to get things kind of settled again. we've lost a lot of employees. So just trying to build up the team again and get back to an infrastructure that allows you to expand.
Lastly, before we let you go here, in any of the new spots that you're going to go into, I'm sure you'll be checking the air ducts first, make them dummy proof.
I didn't know if we were going to get to that.
I like the way you just slid that in there.
I recalled the story from a few years back where the burglar cut his way into the house.
Huh? You dug deep, huh? So this one day, manager comes into the restaurant, setting up we used to do a lot of catering events. Manager setting up for the party, and some banging going on in the roof. He didn't think anything of it, thinking that, I don't know, maybe it's a loose belt or something. Other guys come in the kitchen, hey, do me a favor, go up on a roof, see what's going on. Maybe it's a belt, we have to call the HVAC guy. He goes up there, guy goes up there, there's like a slit on the side of the air duct, like right where the expansion kind of joint is. So it's like rubber, and it's bent open. The guy comes down, he's like, oh man, I think an animal got into the thing. So he's like, no, it can't be. So then again, start hearing banging, banging, banging. So they went back up again, and they kind of like stuck their head in the hole, and they hear somebody screaming, help, help. So 911, fire department comes, basically takes a guy out of the duct system. I was trying to break in overnight.
It's ridiculous.
Like, you think you've heard it all, right? And get stuck, head first. Couldn't get out. Now, mind you, it's like, maybe it's in August. I remember like July, August time. If there was not a party that day in that room, that system would not have been on, right? That guy would have died there. There was no way. A 5,000 square foot restaurant, there's a whole catering room that if you're not having a party, you're not using it. It's off.
Right.
Right?
Nah, I mean, not for nothing, but eventually, not to go dark, you would have smelt it.
Well, too late then, but.
Yeah.
Learn something today? Dig deeper into email segmenting, as developing a personalized journey for your customers can bring you a huge ROI. Check out Frankie and Fanucci's online, and be sure to be following the Waiting on Fries podcast on Spotify or Apple Music for more great stories released every Thursday. This has been another episode of On the Record.